Well, hello, Facebook family. I hope you're having a great Friday. I wanted to speak into a subject. It's probably a little bit of an uncomfortable subject for a lot of either men or women when it comes to do with sexuality. And I wanted to speak into this just a little bit. A lot of the conversations I have with the men as we come through the retreats and we work on accountability is there's this energy around the dark side. And I wanted to bring it up real quick as just a conversation. I wanted to invite the conversation. I wanted to bring it up. In the context of this conversation, I'm going to be primarily speaking about the masculinity and the femininity, being a man and a woman. I acknowledge any type of partner and whatever this it resonates with inside of your relationship. But for the purpose of this, I'm going to speak to it as a masculine man and as a feminine woman. And I want to speak about this because I think it's important and it's an uncomfortable topic, and I might get a little kind of on the edge tonight, but I think it's important. And there's been this whole topic of Me Too, and there's definitely been a lot of masculine energy that hasn't been loving and supportive and has been more of a take energy, and I do not condone that at all. And on the flip side of it, this is kind of the part that I want to discuss a little bit. There's this line of a lot of men do not show up. They're afraid of that energy, afraid of the power, afraid of this anger, power, whatever that dark energy is, that's a taking energy. There's a fear around that because their father or a man that they saw, or a lot of these examples in society of these men who are showing up in the Me Too. And so they suppress it. And a lot of times when they suppress this energy, they're not allowing the fullness of them to come out. They're not allowing themselves to come in and penetrate their woman with their masculine power that feels what's needed in the moment. And sometimes what's needed is to be strong and powerful and to take. And it's not a take from a negative perspective, which I think a lot of the Me Too energy was a negative kind of take without take energy that wasn't theirs. But I think in the context of a loving, supportive relationship where you know the rules and you've created a really safe space together, I think once you've created that safe space, you need to be able to go into those different roles and explore the masculinity, explore the power of the dark side. So I want to talk about this for a minute. Hey, Wendy. Hey, Billy. Hey, friends. Because I see a lot of men that struggle with this dark side, and some are like overly dark, and some really struggle with it. So I just want to talk about it and put it out there for both the masculine and the feminine. And I think there's a lot of value to both sides of it. I think what I've observed, I'll just tell you from an observation standpoint, is there's this energy when I've been on the role of a relationship where I put a woman on a pedestal. I'm more chivalrous as my natural nature. So I'm a gentleman. I like to do things. And I think we have an internal conflict as men. You've heard this quite a bit. It's like I have my queen and I have this energy of the whore, if you will, right? And a lot of times there's the light and there's the dark. There's the light side of like, oh, how do I treat my queen, my goddess, my queen? I put her on a pedestal. I honor her. I'm chivalrous. I open doors. I do all these things that I'm a gentleman, right? I really take care of us. I provide for us. I honor us. I serve her. I honor her. I respect her. And then there's this other side, which is the dark side, which is a lot of times associated with, call it the energy of the whore, but it's the energy of a lot of men. I know myself included. I had these separated. So I would attract a really powerful, empowered woman in my life, and I would suppress the side of me that was, call it my dark side. And the dark side, that when I was with a woman that I wasn't interested in seriously, it was more of like, let's say, a sexual relationship, I would unleash this side of me that would come out that was more my dark side. And the aspects that I would go to sexually in this place with a woman that I wasn't interested in, I wouldn't bring out in these other relationships. So I wanted to bring this out in order for you to feel into it. If you're a man watching this, have you taken your dark side and made it wrong? Have you split them where you have your light and your dark, and you have these two aspects of yourself? What I would say is, how do you find a way to integrate them? How do you find a way to integrate them, to honor your truth, to honor that side of yourself? That's not a take from the negative standpoint. It's from a take from a giving place. What I've observed is if I'm able to really drop into my heart in the relationships that I've been in, and I can feel into my heart what I call it my woman needs. I feel when she needs me to take her. I feel when she needs me to love her and to respect her and to cherish her. And I'm able to feel the contrast of what's needed. And I'm not deciding in my head, but I'm feeling into it. And then I'm allowing myself to go there. And I wanted to share this because I find in a lot of relationships, I find it's challenged. Yeah, I think, Lauren, sometimes they're overly a take type energy where they're overly taking. And then other times there's this energy where it's like, it's boring. Quite honestly, there's no charge, there's no sexuality, it's predictable. It's like a good little boy who's just doing the same thing over and over again. There's no bad boy. A lot of women want this bad boy, but do they really want all the negative characteristics of the bad boy, or do they want somebody who's strong and who's confident and who's unpredictable and they don't know what's going to come next? So I think really honoring the self, really honoring the moment and what you feel, you can feel what needs to happen. You can feel what's there and how you can show up. And I just wanted to share this message in honoring the dark side of masculinity. And it's not the dark side of, if you're angry, to take it out on the people you love. It's honoring, if you're angry, acknowledge your anger, feel your anger, find a healthy event to be with your anger. If you're feeling connected, how do you own it in all these relationships? And the reason I was bringing it up is I had a couple men who I was lucky enough to talk to the man side of it, and I was lucky enough to talk to the female side of it, and I was actually coaching both. And it was really interesting to me because as I was talking to the man, here's a man who really loves this woman and values her so highly, and here's another man on the other, or a woman on the other side, who's wanting her man to take him. And I saw it because I'd been there so many times. I'm like, oh, he values her so highly. He's not wanting to hurt her. He's not wanting to do things, but she's craving for him to take her, to override the boundaries, to create that. Which, yeah, Lauren, I think that love does that, but I also feel a lot of times with love, we tend to not, at least as men, and I can speak for myself, we suppress, a lot of times we suppress what's there. We suppress that energy instead of allowing that to come through and being that energy. And I think that that energy, a lot of relationships, that's a lot of times why they struggle, is they're missing the chemistry, or they're missing the connection, or they're missing pieces of it. And my observation on the masculine side, at least, is I think a lot of it is because we're suppressing the dark side. And on the flip side of it, a lot of times not communicating, not feeling in the heart. So how do we feel in the heart and be vulnerable, be connected, express what's going on? So I think, again, this is just a message of expressing the dark side of masculinity. And I wanted to just invite you to feel into it with you. You know, if you have a relationship, are you honoring your dark, or are you making it wrong? I find if we suppress a part of ourselves, it comes out in other ways. You know, how do we really honor that? How do we feel like, oh, this is me? Let me embrace who I am. Let me embrace all of me, my dark, my light. And if I can embrace all of me, I can embrace all of my partner. I can embrace the storm. I can embrace all that's there because I'm fully at peace with who I am. So I'm not moved by the storm. I'm like here in my heart going, okay, because I think there's a lot of times I've been in certain situations where I'm hearing my partner say what she wants, but I'm feeling her body tell me something different, right? So I'm able to feel what she needs and go like, this is what you need, you know? And the mind's saying something different. If I'm listening to the story or the mind, it's something totally different than, so I just wanted to share this because I think a lot of times by honoring the heart and by stepping into your power, by stepping into your masculinity and not being afraid of the dark or the light, I find some men are overly in the dark and live from that place and are kind of afraid of the light, if you will. They're afraid of the vulnerability. They're afraid of the softer side. They're afraid of being chivalrous. They're afraid of the gentleman because of being hurt. So they're protecting that side. And then I find other men are overly on this side and they're protecting the dark side. They're protecting that side of them, that to unleash that side of them to come out because they're afraid of it. Or their fathers were that and they don't want to be that, or whatever that energy is. So this is just a conversation to invite that in. I actually think it's healthy. And not from the sense of the Me Too energy by any means, when men are just taking that, but in the context of a safe, healthy relationship where two partners love each other and they're wanting to push each other's boundaries and create more fulfillment. So I just wanted to share that. I think as men, you have it inside of you already. If you can feel beneath it, allowing that part of you, not allowing to suppress it, but to bring that out. And like, how can you turn it playful? How can you turn it sexual? And on the feminine, I'll also share, I think there's a lot of times where it can be flirty, it can be playful. I'll say on the masculine side, flirtiness, playfulness, tonality is the biggest thing. So even little touches of tonality go a long way. A lot of times just the tonality of like an angry tonality is so much different than a playful, seductive, you know, personality. It's almost like a guy, for guys, it turns us on like, oh, what do we need to do? So I just want to share this for those that are in relationship, for those that are in dating, and for things to keep growing and expanding. How do we continue to embrace different aspects of ourselves? And how do we embrace different aspects of our partners? So I hope it was helpful. I totally agree with a lot of what you're saying, Lord. I think love is amazing, and love is constantly changing and growing. And I'm just finding, like, how do we allow ourselves to be all of it? How do we allow ourselves to trust, to surrender, to go into all of it, to really be all of it? So on the feminine, I find there's a lot more of playfulness and seductiveness and flirtiness and change and variety that can constantly keep things stimulated and coming back to the relationship. And on the masculine side, I think we need to do the same thing. Like, how do we create change? How do we create variety? How do we make things interesting and different and fun and unique? I feel like the relationship has to constantly grow. So that's not one side or the other. It's like, how do we both grow? How do we both? And I find it is a little bit more, from my experience, the masculine is a little bit more leading in general relationships, of leading where it's going. And a lot of men basically don't make decisions. They get indecisive. They sit around saying, I don't know, what do you want? They kind of fall, to me, which is a really weak way of being. Like, step into your power, own your power, make decisions, decide where you're going, decide what's going to happen. Lead the relationship, take the relationship where it's going. And on the feminine side, how can the feminine be gentler and not emasculating, right? Not emasculating where it's like a shutdown. So how do we work together to support one another and to have more fulfilling relationships, have better chemistry, more passion, a more fulfilling life, where it's like lit up and you never know what's going to happen. You have the safety of the relationship, but nothing's really safe. So it's like you're loving unconditionally, choosing your partner and choosing how to show up, but not smothering or not, overwhelming them. It's just this free flowing. It's almost like this. How do we stay like this? So I hope this was helpful. And I'm hoping you all have a beautiful evening. And I just wanted to share it because I've been hearing it a lot, this masculine energy. And I think as men, we're trying to figure out, like, how do I bring all this power out of me and not be a Me Too guy? And learning that's a little bit tricky. And so I just wanted to share that I think you can totally bring that power out in the context of a safe dynamic. And your woman, a lot of times, or your partner, is craving that energy. But learning a safe dialogue, starting a conversation, communicating with each other, starting to learn, like, okay, where's the boundaries? What can I do? What can I do? And if you haven't done it, don't say you don't know, because you may not know. But I think having that conversation to figure out, like, how do we explore the dark a little bit? How do we explore this side of the relationship? And how do you develop some either safe words or safe context to figure out how to explore, I think might bring a lot of value to your relationship. So I hope this helps. Yes, I would agree, Lauren, you have to really like somebody, but if you don't really like somebody, why are you with them in the first place? Like, if you're not all in, what's the point? I would say, but I'm tend to be a black or white kind of guy. I'm all in or all out. But I hope this helps. I'm wishing everybody a beautiful evening, and we will talk soon.